Good day and a warm, very warm welcome to everyone. My name is Markus Höpperger. I'm a Senior Director of the Department of Brands and Designs at the World Intellectual Property Organization. And it's with great pleasure that I welcome you to today's webinar on the topic of designing sound, the impact of audio in design. The World Intellectual Property Organization is an organization that is concerned with the protection of intangibles. Classic intangibles are broken down into inventions, patents, brands, designs, music, literatures, photographs, films, etc. But this intellectual property categorization doesn't necessarily cover areas that we find at the fringes of the subject matter, such as sound. We are thrilled today once again to collaborate with our friends from the World Design Organization to celebrate the World IP Day. We greatly appreciate this partnership, which has made today's discussion possible. The World Intellectual Property Organization is committed to fostering a balanced and effective global IP system that drives innovation and creativity. Every year we celebrate the World Intellectual Property Day on April 26, marking the anniversary of the signing of the WIPO Convention back in 1970. And each year, the World IP Day explores a specific theme, and this year the theme is IP and music feel the beat of intellectual property, highlighting the profound connection between intellectual property and the music industry. Music is a universal language. It moves people, brings them together, and fuels creativity. At its core, music is built on sound, but sound, as I said before, goes beyond music. It is also a design element that plays an increasing role in shaping our experiences with products, services, and digital environments. And with the advancements in smart technologies and immersive interactions, sound has evolved from a secondary consideration to a defining design feature. Think of the hum of an electric vehicle, or the startup sound of a gaming console, a computer, or the alert sound when a message arrives on your cell. All these sounds create recognition, they evoke emotion, and they build brand identity. Strategic use of sound in design brings not only new creative opportunities, but also new challenges. How do we balance aesthetics and functionality, and how can businesses and designers create distinct sound identities, and how do we protect these innovations? That is where intellectual property rights come into play. As businesses, design and policymakers, as they explore these emerging opportunities, leveraging IP protection is essential to driving both creative and commercial success. One powerful tool is trademark protection. It ensures that distinctive sounds can serve as exclusive brand identifiers. For example, the MGM Lion's Roar, the iconic Nokia ringtone, and the intro sound of Netflix are all registered sound trademarks. These cases illustrate how sound can be as central to a brand's identity and how IP law supports and safeguards that value. So today's webinar brings together experts from various industries to share insights on how sound in design can drive innovation and growth. It also provides an opportunity to consider how IP rights can be leveraged to support these advancements. So thank you again for joining us, and I look forward to an engaging discussion and encourage you to actively participate in today's exchange of ideas. Over now to Bertrand.
Thank you, Marcus. Greetings, everyone. It's such a pleasure to be with you today, celebrating once again World Intellectual Property Day. It's important for WDO as a United Nations Special Consultative Status organization to promote the use of design through the UN agencies and to support the objective of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals by design, and to share the potential that design has to accomplish the missions of international organizations, industries of all sectors, and our partners abroad. In this case, we're quite proud to jointly work on a better understanding of our common goals with WIPO. The objective of better understanding how better design and a better use and leverage of intellectual property can achieve better prosperity for our communities. I want also to recognize the work that WIPO has been doing to make IP protection processes and tools more accessible and more efficient. And I also would like to encourage our WDO members to engage in the conversation on IP through the different forums that WIPO opens to our community and share their point of view and how to make this important domain evolve. Talking about forums, a quick reminder to our community that the World Design Congress will be taking place in September 9 to 11, a 3-day event with 2 days of conferences, with keynote speakers addressing a topic of design for planet this year. We will also have a mixed research and education forum platform to share the selected papers from the call that is currently open. So once again, I'd like to remind everyone that we like to have contribution from researchers coming from design education institution, but also from the corporate world, because we like to engage this conversation between education and the corporate world to enrich our view on the future of design. Now, coming back to today's program, this webinar is part of a series of partner and member webinars that we host at WDO. And we're quite proud to have 2 key members of our community coming from our corporate members coming from 2 very different regions and 2 very different industries. And the topic of today was quite inspiring to us to understand the different fields design can act upon, and to not take for granted some of the fields that we need to address in our work. Just a reminder for today's webinar that you can share your location and greetings in the chat section, and that we will have a Q&A section at the end of the webinar. So please use the Q&A section of the platform to share your questions that we will use to interact after our 2 presentations. Our first speaker, coming from Turkey, a country inspiring in its support to the design industry to move its community from a supplier standpoint to a highly valued brand positioning. Vestel in the consumer good industry is a perfect example of that. Our speaker today, Uçkan Yüksel, is the UX, UI, and outsourcing design manager in Vestel Design Center. She is a senior designer with more than 20 years of experience in consumer and B2B electronics, holding a bachelor's and a master's degree in product design and a PhD in service design. She was responsible for orchestrating UX, UI design team, which is creating the smart ecosystem of household appliances and consumer electronics of Vestel, and integrating with many more smart products every day. So now to you, Can. Here we go.
Hi, everyone. First of all, let me share my presentation before start. Hi, everyone. Let me greet you again once after Derome. This is very different and difficult for me because he said too well. Thank you for all dear distinguished guests of World Design Organizations. Welcome to the World Intellectual Property Day online event. My name is Uçkan Yüksel, the design manager of UX UI team and outsourced products in Vestel. I'm honored to be one of the speakers today on behalf of Vestel, joining you from many different companies, academia, and social groups. As we gather to exchange insight, think together, and engage in meaningful discussions, I hope this event becomes a truly enriching one. Let's start with thinking on, first of all, sound of design objects. But beforehand, I would like to give you a little hints of where I'm coming from. First of all, Vestel is a group of companies, global conglomerate operating in consumer electronics, home appliances, and digital products, and mobility electronics, which is comprising 25 companies, and 16 of it are based abroad. As one of the world's leading original design manufacturers in consumer electronics and home appliances, Vestel actually ranks among the top 3 in the European LCD TV market and top 5 in home appliances market. 88% of the products we produce in Vestel in Manisa in Turkey are exported to 140 countries or more. Vestel as an A brand in Turkey, an ODM company for Europe and Asia, has the knowledge and capacity to design for a wide range of customers from a variety of cultures and backgrounds, as you just look at the country number that we're exporting to. For many years, our products have been awarded in very prestigious national and international competitions as well. But in our institutional history, one of them has a remarkable place, DME Award. For that award, the companies were nominated by European Committee. In our big companies group, we were one of the 5 with the other like Heineken and MAN. The moments before waiting for the announcement were very emotional and thrilling for me. And it was a great honor on behalf of my company also. And who am I working with? With a whole bunch of very talented designers, of course. Designing in Vestel is because design and innovation have always a high importance in the product development of Vestel group of companies. We aim to produce high quality products in our living spaces combined with function and aesthetics. For more than 2 decades, starting with a small team of 3, we became a design center. Now, as you can see, with 3 main groups specialized on subjects as the followings, like consumer electronics, home appliances, UX design, UI, and outsourced products. And the 3 design groups are responsible for designing several products contributing our export. First group, for example, consumer electronic design team is working on our televisions, remote controls, electrical charge devices, medical devices, small domestic appliances, signature solutions, IFPDs like interactive displays, video content production of our own produced video walls, and even for the fairs and the packaging graphic design. Home appliances design team is working on starting with refrigerator to the air conditioners. You can think of any white goods, and also the UI design, the device displays of those products. My team is consisting of 2 subgroups indeed. The UX UI design team is actively working on, as you can see, our mobile applications, which is a management platform of all white goods and TVs and other mobile devices. And also TV UX UI team is working on the UX flow of UI elements of the TV platforms like Linux, Android, and Google TVs. Our responsibility in outsourcing product design is also supporting the marketing teams with our expertise in consumer electronics, on color, material, and finishing for the small domestic appliances and vacuum cleaners and all other small appliances that we are selling in Turkey, and also as an ODM company to Europe. When we come to the day's issue, the sound of design objects. Before speaking of what Vestel does on sounds of objects, we can have a little start on today's subject with small questions and thinking. What I'm telling is what the sound of objects and context relations of those are, and what do we expect from them, and how do people interpret the sound of products, and how do they interact to them. First of all, the sounds of the external world are the natural expectations for every healthy person if you are not with no impairment of hearing. When we started designing products as designers, the motion, the material, and the relation of the moving parts brought their sounds to the objects. Then it became what we expect from those products. For example, when we walk in nature, we expect to hear the wind, the grasses under the feet, the birds tweet. When you get out of your apartment, you can start the man-made products voices, like the cars, the hooters and engines, whatever it can. But just think about the pandemic. It was odd when you first start not hearing them, wasn't it? So the surprises we feel are actually rooted from the lack of what we expect, the lack of preconditioner structures in our minds for the sounds we have. And for example, when you see a clock, you would expect it to have a sound. Now the alarm sound is indispensable to a clock. The clicking sound of an analog wall clock is somewhat maybe calming for a group of people, maybe disturbing for another group of people, reminding what to them. Whatever we feel about the sounds of objects, it's related to our relationship with those objects from the past to the present. We can coin the phenomenon as psychology of sound. It's not precisely determined yet what level of sound intensity and frequency makes us fear from it. But it is known that the emotional and physical response depends on how familiar our brains with the sound, where the sound is coming from, both contents. And also the context of the sound of among many factors that are considered in psychoacoustics. Like a big cat, which one would you first have fear of when you hear? From the times of caves to the megapolises, our reactions to sounds are keeping us alive, turning on our natural fight or flight mechanism from the roar of a big cat or a big engine bustling towards us, depending on the context. Many new mothers can relate that event. In the middle of their sleep at night, you can hear the murmuring their baby in another room, even if it's not loud, because our brain keeps scanning for any sound during our even sleep. When we came to sound of objects, sounds of nature can calm us, can feel us danger, or make us afraid of the thunder, for example. But the rain after the thunder, if we are under a rooftop, the tapping can calm us. But why these sounds can change our emotions? These are the natural environment sounds. What about the sounds of man-made objects that surround us? I don't know if you ever think of it before, but what do we feel when we hear a whistle? How do your feelings change if this whistle coming from your kettle or a stranger at night? Why do we need a click, a tap, a beep? You can read them all, or a tinkle and gargle. All those are the sounds that we are expecting coming from the objects around us. We need these sounds of objects intuitively. We expect them to give us feedback to understand if we did anything properly that is expected from us as users, or if it's ready to use, if it's prepared to utilize, all right. The products engage and actually communicate through their sounds, on purpose or not. For example, a sound of object. Can it be a mass localization tool? What do you hear right now? When you hear, please think of it. What do you recall with that sound? Was it just a metal spoon stirring something in a glass? Or a teaspoon stirring in a traditional Turkish tea glass? In the eyes of many who haven't experienced a tea in Turkey, the imagination will be simply the first one. But however, a large group of people, especially those brought up in Turkey or lived in Turkey for some time, even in small towns, would recall the second one, the stereotypical image. Once there was a big meeting for executives in Vestel. During the mood lifting session of a Kahoot-like thing, the presenter hit the button to send the questions to the phones of us, and all the ballroom echoed with almost one notification too. The same you hear the second. The same thing was happening in the public transportation as well. People were recognizing each other who is using which notification tone of the ringtones and of Vestel Venus mobile phone. For example, the opening was like this. And the notification that we hear. And different from the biggest worldwide phone producers, as a small newcomer brand in the phone business, Vestel induced authenticity in the phone design, not with its form and general constraint, very formal design. It was very constrained area though. Overall look with its UX elements and UI elements supporting it. For example, one of the other opening of Z40, the latest one. Authentic Turkish sound and the notification. The sound elements, opening, notification, alarm, and button sounds are specifically designed by a Turkish musician. Some UI elements are rooted from the Turkish historical motifs. So our brand identity was enriched while differentiating from the mass with our cultural background. Then, cool sounds create expectation. Can you recall the music you hear in the plane on boarding? You start expecting the same boarding music if you are using frequently the same airline brand, usually fly with. Can you differentiate the retail store you usually go by its background sound? All the sounds of working mechanism give us clues about how they work, actually, what they do inside the black box, in which phase of the sequential process it should do. Without the deep consideration, we interpret the sounds. For example, what kind of sound would you expect from the door of a car? Many can expect something. From a washing machine while it's actively working, would it be something like this? Repetitive action, right? You expect a repetitive sound, you expect the sound change only with a surface change of a suck of it. Nothing absurd happened. You start to match the sound with each process of coffee machine right now. What is happening? Can you imagine a TV without sound? I think you cannot. But the sound in TV has a different kind of communication with the user, because music and film industry has its own production and capacity to interact with the end user. But the opening, the booting ceremony of the TV can bring something from the brand image to the end user. All these products and spaces are interacting with us in their own way. The way they speak is, again, it's designed. It's very one thing that is designed specifically, but how and why? Sounds depend on our interpretations as well, I had said. For example, a door of a D segment car, what would it makes you feel? It should be rich and deep sound, more than many other B segments, right? For example, a washing machine, door, opening and closing. It should give the durability and longevity of the product. It should give this feeling of it. Or a 4K TV set, when you first turned on for installation, an animation comes with the bold image and the sound comes there. The sound needs to support that, the idea of giving the impression of the high quality, you paid for it. A mobile phone while opening, the same thing, or while notifying you, the reliability and tech-driven of the approach of the brand. But the sound of the objects are brand that is interacting with the user, conveying the brand image, making it more tangible. Sometimes the sound becomes so iconic that no image is required, and you can possibly remind with everyone. You can continue with sound as interaction with products, we said. If the products are free from explanatory display, there's no display on the product, or if the only managing dashboard is a touch display of the product, how would the user, the end user, interact with those objects? Let's think about some responses that we're expecting of. What kind of sound would you expect from your robot vacuum cleaner trying to explain you its problem? Or any awkward sounds from the engine, or only a beep should come? I mean, you need to understand it, or a beep should come, or your vacuum cleaner, because it's a robot, talk like a robot. And what is the talk of a robot? How should it be? Which would be more expected and awkward? For example, there is no right and wrong answer for it. The context and the sound affects what you feel can differ. If you're coming according to your age, maybe the next generation would even be familiar with and wanting their robot sound like a C3PO. The robotic sound finds its right place there. But the younger generation, I suppose, maybe they're going to be more familiar with the humanoids and would like it to talk like a human. How would you like your coffee machine notify you? The same things can happen. What would it be most convenient for you? Have you ever thought of? Sounds of the products support the multisensory experience of the user while interacting with them. I think I have asked so many questions, and that is my time right now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jan. Quite inspiring to see the depth of understanding and the depth of work that is put into our everyday product that we take for granted. But it's a great example of how design can leverage psychology, culture, and technology for better user experience. So thank you so much. I very much look forward to the Q&A section. I don't know if you'll have answers to all your questions, but I think we'll have questions for you from our participants here today. Now, our second speaker today comes from BRP, founded in Quebec, Canada, coming from a long-standing tradition of innovation in mobility, and now a symbol of the strategic importance of design. Alain Massicotte, a design director for Can-Am on-road vehicles, also responsible for human-machine interfaces and ergonomics across their product lines. With BRP for over 30 years, Alain, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Bertrand. Thank you very much. I'll set up the stage, making sure that we can share material. Here we are. Yes, this is a pleasure. Thank you for the opportunity. Hello, everyone. And just to set expectations, I'm not an expert in sound design. However, some of my colleagues are very knowledgeable experts, and we have to apply sound or the impact of audio in everything we design in terms of design thinking. So on the behalf of my colleagues and based on recent projects I've been involved in, I will share our reality about the impact of audio in power sports design. And to set the stage, I would think that it's a good thing to invite you to feel the vibe of what is BRP, because maybe you don't know that much about BRP, but it would be a great complementarity to what has been presented by Jan right before. It's a different environment, and you will feel it right away. So I would invite you to tune your volume and enjoy.
How sweet.
So have you seen different playgrounds, multiple various customers, but same heartbeat? That heartbeat is defining really well the emotions that we are kind of producing, these experiences that we want people to live within different environments with our products. And this is led by our heritage as well, the DNA that we've been establishing for many years at BRP with many products. And through those years, we learned a lot about how to apply what I would call the soundtrack of power sports. So this heritage is, you will see mostly on the loud side, but I would invite you to look at what it is about the different playgrounds and the sound of these machines.
Here they are, knights out of the darkness, becoming gleaming gladiators as they leap to the floor of the Los Angeles Coliseum. Ellis really turned it up.
Here comes Ellis making his charge to the outside around 100. They come down to that big leap at the start-finish line, and Ellis walks into the lead.
Ladies and gentlemen, the winner of the Super Bowl of motocross is Jimmy Ellis.
So I'm sure you felt the energy. You felt it, as I said, on the loud side. However, it's not exclusively that. We've been evolving in multiple segments, including also some of the more utility-oriented segments that would require to pay a special attention to the noise. And this is going up to our marketing campaigns as what you see on the screen right now. So we have to pay attention to that. We've been going through a transformation, and going through this transformation, it's because we've learned a lot. We are still learning. And everything that we are putting together, and thanks to our NVH, this is what we call the noise, vibration, and harshness experts. Here I would mention Etienne Poulain and his team, who are doing some magic. And we are refining, we are learning as I was saying, but whatever, if it's for the level, the character, or the quality of the sound, they perform acquisitions in order to identify the impact of key components. So, and this is true on every product lines and in every conditions. So we see an example here of working all year long on snowmobiles and refining what we are doing for all our models. And you'll see that more in the real conditions here. That was a couple of weeks ago up north Quebec. And the graphs and all the tools that have been developed to be able to identify the key components impact. This is it's the sum of all those peripherals who would bring the final experience in terms of sound. So this is really inspiring. This is something that we are kind of building over all that knowledge in terms of the technical aspects, but we are also influenced by the evolution of the car industry as well as customer products.
Noise second lane.
So looking at paradigm shifting solutions as noise canceling, that would change the name of the game for headphones. Also, with the era of the electric cars in the automotive industry, bringing some options to refine to another level the audio experience from a musical standpoint in a car environment. These are really inspiring solutions that, let's say, we are looking at and to see what would happen if we would also have access to new technologies and to have to develop and to learn again. Because some examples that I would bring here for specific projects we had recently to apply our knowledge and to learn again, as I said, I will navigate you through 3 examples of our way to deploy electrification. Because as you can imagine, electrification versus our DNA versus where we are coming from with our internal combustion engines, it's a different world. And this is what I called the era of duality, because from where we were to where we could be or where we are right now, we had quite some good discussions and we have quite some good learnings in the field. But we had no other choice to deploy this so we would learn. And I would give you a first example of the Rotax carts, because we are also developing karting, mostly in Europe. And also what is interesting is from a performance standpoint, at first it could have been perceived as being something maybe on the negative side. However, following this quick video, you will understand that there are also some opportunities. So right here, you felt the difference on the cart, on the track. And that was kind of bringing a new way to listen to the other elements. And I would bring your attention to 2 aspects. Once you remove sound, the other senses are now kind of available to capture to another level the information. And that was the case for the performance kart racing. That was something that was challenging in terms of transition up until the hardcore racers, they achieved better lap times because they were able to hear the specific noise of the tires on the track. So that was bringing another level of information to be able to elevate the performances. Not only this, it was also bringing this to another more approachable level, even kind of bringing some indoor experiences to another level of karting experience. And on this, we were able to also add some lights, some music in the experience. So that would be a complementarity to what was the experience before. So on the kart side, there were lots of learnings on this front that was more on a closed course perspective. Now, if we think about a snowmobile into the wow, now we are getting into the nature. And I would like you to understand what was kind of the departure from the current snowmobile offering to an electric experience on the snow.
I ride this electric snowmobile today for the first time, so
there is a reindeer.
Nice ride to go to the nature, and you can hear your fellow riders speaking, and so it was a totally different experience for me.
I don't want to stop.
At first, I thought it would be intimidating, but I wasn't intimidated at all. It was super easy to handle, to ride.
I've been guiding for just over 12 years now. The new electric snowmobiles, they just even enhance the
going into the nature and experiencing it. They are emissionless. You can't smell them. They are just fantastic machines to go. I'm very excited for the electric snowballs arriving to our fleet and allowing us to access the nature in a whole new way.
So it is great to hear those comments because at first we didn't know what would be the benefits, but now we know. Getting some feedback through our fleet operators, this is really interesting to feel that we could be even more in sync with the nature. And if you've ever had a snowmobile ride, you would understand that it's really difficult or almost impossible to speak to each other's, not having communication system. And in this case, you can show a reindeer to people kind of riding with you. So it's changing the name of the game, and that was also made possible through the refinement of the systems that has been developed specifically for the electric snowmobile. And those systems, by the way, are also deployed after or those solutions could be benefit for our other even ICE models in terms of evolution. The last case, but not the least, is the project that I've been really involved in since the very beginning. And this is the Can-Am motorcycle, where we are back on two wheels with electric motorcycles. And one of the most kind of interesting debate was to discuss about a motorbike usually as a sound. It's part of the DNA of a motorbike, not only of our motorbikes. And throughout the years, coming with the silence, all of a sudden, it was bringing some interesting discussions. But I would like you to feel a bit of what we felt going in different environments, getting some feedback from a journalist as the one that you will see on the screen right now. And I will bring you some other examples after.
When you switch on the bike, you feel some fans kick on, and already I can tell you the bike is genuinely very, very quiet. Some of the other electric motorcycles that are out there, you can hear a little bit of noise from the chain and from other systems on the bike, but so far not noticing any of that on this, partly probably because of the chain case system that they have on this bike that is sealed. So it is pretty silent.
It says it all and more, because the thumbnail that you see there with the long horns, bulls, and you see you don't see the horses, but there were some horses as well. The story behind it is we rented a 300 acres ranch in Texas. That was kind of a public place for motocross and motorsports. And while we were there with the public and having some IC surrounding, we never saw animals. And this is only the day that we took over the facilities that we saw all of a sudden, because we were purely electric, all the animals coming really nearby, even laying on the trails. We had to change kind of our plans somewhat. So it was quite a demonstration of the impact of the surroundings could be noticeable. So these experiences made us kind of evolve in our discussions about, do we add or not a synthetic sound over the organic sound. And finally, so far, we are really proud to be deployed and to learn in the different environments, including the city, and getting the direct feedback from having one of the most silent, if not the most silent motorcycle on the planet. So from the era of duality, we can say that this has been evolving to showcase opportunity. So if we would talk about that opportunity in the duality, is the sound inspiring ourselves to design shapes. Because one of the most inspiring from the design team here, we always look at characters first. And one of these characters, or the main characters that has been used as an inspiration for the shapes, but also the overall character of the motorcycles, was the snowy owl. Over and above, this is our bird emblem in Quebec. But what we have to know about the snowy owl, this is one of the most stealthy bird of prey on the planet. So that was inspiring not only the character, that was inspiring the sound, and also that was inspiring at the end of the day the shape. So that was a good example, and this is a good example of the complementarity in terms of inspiration. So if we would consider today, I would come back to just the slide before, because it's interesting to, I'm sorry, here. What you've seen is the complementarity of our tools, being able to do some acquisitions in the field, on the snow with snowmobiles, to be able to do some acquisition in anechoic chambers, to be able to remove all the rattles and the unwanted sounds and noises from an electric motorcycle. When we combine all this, we think that all those tools, that know-how, will lead us to take the best of both worlds in shaping our future sound DNA. So we are really happy to continue to deploy our product lineups with all that know-how and to be able to have best of both worlds, as we said. So thank you very much. I hope you liked it. And I would do special thanks to my colleague Farhan, who's been putting all this material together in a beautiful way. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Alain, and hello to everyone. Thank you for joining today's webinar. So just to introduce myself, my name is Dorothée Bollard. I am WDO's Community Engagement Officer, and I work closely with WDO's 200+ member organizations, including BRP and Vestel, to deliver engagement activities like this one. So if you are new to WDO, or maybe you've been watching our work from a distance, I encourage you to find out more about WDO membership. And so we will go straight now to questions. I know we've already had some that have come through, but please do keep adding your questions to the chat and the Q&A. So the first question is for BRP. BRP operates across multiple environments, including snow, water, dirt, air. How do sound elements differ across these environments, and what challenges do you face in designing for them?
Thank you. As I mentioned, but it is, we have to understand that different environments would have or would influence how sound is perceived or projected. So this is why we are performing acquisitions in different environments. It could be muffled in the snow. It could be kind of enhanced underwater somewhat. So yes, we have to take into consideration all the different environments. But moreover, I would say that we have to consider the impact on people and surroundings. So as when we are talking about a motorcycle in the city, I can tell you by experience that when you are riding an electric motorcycle in the city, the social acceptance with the people on the sidewalk or people you are interacting with, this is something on a positive side. So we are looking at the environment from a technical standpoint on the impact on the noise or the sound, but we are also looking at it from an experience standpoint for both the riders and people around, or the animals, as we've seen.
Thank you, Alain. We have a question for Jan. How does Vestel ensure that the sounds in its products contribute to positive consumer perception and reinforce the brand?
The very first design, one of the main design objects, as you can say, the television sets. At the booting menu, the television set needs to give the high tech that is inside the TV. So the sound needs to support the boot logo with its animation also. And then with the new market that we entered in with mobile phones, the mobile phone market was first our national Turkish market. And also the idea of working with a Turkish musician came from that search, the intriguing search for the authenticity, for the how can we get the authenticity to the new very big players are in already, you know, the big brands. But we looked for the new sound, and also that is the sound differentiated us, the ringtones and everything we found for the mobile phones differentiated in the market. So people were differentiated between others. Which one do you like? Which one do you choose on the other, among the other ringtones or so? And it was also a marketing tool for people. Like, which one did you like more than the other? Beyond our imagination, it became another tool, but also it differentiated us from the big brands. However, you know, for the 3D formal design, the mobile phone is very different to do different things. But sound and impressions, the UI elements that we use in chain supported together the brand image. I think that's it.
Thank you, Jan. Marcus, I know that you had a question. I'll hand over to you.
Thank you, Dorothy, and thanks to our two presenters for their fascinating insights into their design work and the world of products they work on and they create. It became very clear that sound is a defining element. And I was wondering, actually, the question goes to both, whether issues of intellectual property become part of the design process. Obviously, if you compose a piece of music for, linking to your telephone, there's a copyright issue there, or in the area of BRP, we actually do away with quite a lot of sound, but then something is maybe substituted. And I realized, for example, with one electric car, when my friend sort of pulled off in front of the garage, it sounded a little bit like it made the noise of the shuttles in the 1970s Star Trek videos, of which I'm a great fan. And I was just wondering whether, and if yes, to what extent, intellectual property considerations are part of the process, and how do you approach those? Thank you.
It's for me first, or Alain? Start.
Oh, yes. On our side, Marcus, it would be more about the peripherals. So far, the examples that you've seen a little bit earlier are bringing the final result of the experience in terms of sound. So it would be a combination of some of the subsystems. You've seen the chain case for the motorcycle. We've seen some skidoo or snowmobiles track patterns where we would have some patents. And those patents would be enabling us to get to the result, or part of the enablers to get to the final result. Per se, we are not that much into patenting one sound or trying to protect, but we know that if we protect what would be generating the final sound, the organic sound would be really powerful. So far, this is the way that we've deployed, or that the IP would have an impact on the sound experience.
And for Vestel, I could tell a little bit in before, maybe too much was would be beyond our confidentiality, but I can perfectly say that because we wanted to be just ours, we first of all started from the anonymous traditional Turkish sounds, and then change it into somehow with more Western or the other, change it to universal sound level. And then it became something different totally. Then, of course, with the whole design, formal design and UI and the patterns and everything together, it's they're all under protection of the IPs.
Okay, I think this question is also for you, Jan, so we'll stay with you. Could you elaborate on how you intentionally design or select the sound profiles for machines like vacuum cleaners or washing machines?
Yeah. First of all, the engine, I wouldn't specifically change the sound type for a vacuum cleaner or washing machine, or because as you know, you interpret, maybe you remember from the first part on my slides, the background, we are interpreting the sounds according to the background, the history we had with the machine. We know what it needs to sound when it works properly. If we change it, we find it odd. If anything changes, so it means something's going wrong. From the engine I'm talking about. But if it needs to talk to us, you can completely design the sound with the brand image that you need to convey to your customers. What kind of brand you are, a dynamic or a very static, like according to what you are, you can choose the design way of the, not just, we are not calling it a noise. The noises giving us like the signals, we shouldn't change the signals because how we have coded them in our brains to react, but we can choose the way we communicate, the sound of the communicate over normal languages, like daily languages we can use. I hope I'm understood.
Thank you, Jan. This question is for you, Alain. Do you think that designing completely silent cars is a good idea in terms of safety, since we can't hear them, especially for pedestrians? The noise is a warning that a car is near.
This is something that has been, by the way, regulated first with the reverse, but now being looked at and being regulated going forward on the car industry. Will it come on our side? This is something that we are monitoring. However, we've been performing some validation in the field, and there are some aspects that if you are performing lane splitting in Europe, as an example, the culture of letting people pass is so already well established that even with an electric motorcycle, and we've experienced it many times, we don't feel that there would be we would need to add some extra sound. However, I can tell that this is something that we are monitoring all the time. We are looking at this. We'll be reacting as the automotive industry will be evolving.
And I think linked to that question, we have a question in the chat. Can you make the cart sound like F1?
I don't know if we are talking about an electric cart or our actual Rotax Max challenge. Our actual Rotax Max with the internal combustion engine, this is one step, let's say, ahead of going to F1. So this is the door in. So it's kind of already in the making of being part of the ultimate noise of the F1. If we are talking about an electric cart bringing synthetic sound, I can say that everything is possible. It's all after what we decide to add in terms of weight, complexity to the systems versus the experience we want to deliver. So for sure, if we are talking about a performance product, we are always kind of we are always really kind of careful to add too much complexity because we are on the performance side. However, you've seen the indoor cart. We are adding lots of gamification aspects to it because the experience and people who will be experiencing it, they are looking for something else.
Thank you, Alain. Another question in the chat. This is for you, Jan. So how does your product respond to cultural differences in how people perceive sound?
Yes. First of all, from product to product, it differs. For example, does anyone in China hear the grinder in the coffee machine, how it sounds, and understand something different from anyone in Canada hearing the same voice? Thanks to globalization, the same coffee machine has gone to overseas, and the people have already met with the same coffee machine and the same process sound, the same combination of the material and the practice. And all of their brains, however they're coming from different cultures maybe, but they have the same process, the imagination, the grinding. And the same I can tell for the vacuum cleaner. The sucking, for example, the sounds that I have given in my presentation, I think everyone got from the sound, it was a vacuum cleaner, and from the sound, it was a dishwasher. The repetitive action reminded all of us, regardless where you are coming from, have the same imagination. So we shouldn't be changing the machine sound from culture to culture. The changing thing is what you can choose among many, like the alarm clock. You can choose whatever you like, whatever you need to hear while it's reminding you to wake up, your ringtone, or your TV giving a notification for you needs to, and also there's another, not the perception of sound, but this is a long, it can get long, but the haptic is another thing that for the elderly, for the hearing aid, the people needs hearing aid. This is another maybe problematic issue. What should they hear? And the same speed we told, maybe it can be changed for them as also specialized for them also.
Thank you. And linked to that question for you, Jan, are there initiatives at Vestel to reduce noise pollution or improve energy efficiency through optimized acoustic design in your products?
I can tell that we have, for example, for the noise, for the TV sets, we have for getting higher sound quality, we are using sound boxes and sound engineering. The mechanical department has sound engineers working on the acoustics in our TV sets, for example, because there I had said sound is another issue for the TV sets. It's different from coffee machines and vacuum cleaners and dishwashers. Sound is a vital process of the mass media product, a TV set. But how qualified of a TV is calibrated with its visual, but it's also nowadays with the sound. So we need to have expertise on the sound as well for the TV sets, and sound engineers are working on the acoustics in our TV sets at the backside. I know it's very thin now, and there's no space for it to have the bass and tweets and everything, but this is another kind of engineering, you know.
Thank you, Jan. And a final question for you both. Can you share insights on how sound will shape the next generation of your products? So maybe starting with you, Alain.
As I tried to express, it's difficult to say. This is why we've not been only one way or the other. However, what I can say is we are really well equipped for the future to be able to fulfill different complementary needs, if we can say, depending upon the product lines, depending upon the environment in which we are. So if I would answer today, is there's not only one answer to this question. We would need for a while to go through a transition and to learn again, and that would come with eventually a mix of the evolution, the education, the regulation, and the experiences that we are delivering.
Yeah, Alain, and the same question to you, Jan.
Maybe I can tell a little bit about the differences between generations here, because what we expect from the electronics and everyday objects is different than our children, the young generations. We are responding, and also we are responding to the machines different from them. So I think it's because they are born into a different kind of technological environment than we did. So we are reacting a little bit more, being afraid of, like frightened of being mistaken, but they are not. It's kind of a joy for them to understand how it is working, and they are trying to search for it, but we are hesitating. And during the search, the sounds keep them also alert for what is going on. The sounds of the objects trigger their need for search. But for us, sometimes sounds can be frightening. Okay, it's saying something, just stop it. But and we are giving this object to our children and do the process instead of us. It's saying something, do it for me. And maybe they are going to be more familiar with the talking devices, talking on their own devices, individual talking devices, than us. Maybe it's going to be awkward for us in our elderly years, but that's how they're going to be usually working with. The humanoids and all humanoid looking like robots they are going to be working with, maybe.
Great, thank you. We had just one more question on the chat, and I think this links perfectly to what you were saying, Jan. So for elderly people, are there specific principles for designing sound and equipment in terms of hearing conditions, for example?
Yes, for I cannot tell specifically for hearing conditions, but all the lack of, and for the elderly people, lack of haptics, the haptic ability, and hearing one of them also, but using the touch and for the multisensory experience as it decreases, they need to support each other. The sound needs to support what it's written, and the written stuff on the device, on the display, should be visible enough. And also the visibility, maybe if it is not constrained with the device display, it should be adjustable for the visual and hearing conditions of the users, I suppose.
Thank you very much. And this concludes the Q&A section.
So I believe it's up to me now. And we approach gently but surely the end of the webinar. So for me, first of all, what is left to do is to thank all the participants for joining us today and to engage in the discussion. But first and foremost, to thank and to extend my gratitude and the gratitude on behalf of the World Intellectual Property Organization and the WTO to our speakers, namely Uçkan Yüksel from Vestel and also to Alain Massicotte from BRP, who shared their very valuable insights on how the business across different industries create distinct sounds and strategically integrate them into their product design. I would also like to thank our co-organizers, the World Design Organization, with special thanks to Dorothy and Bertrand for their dedication in making this webinar possible. And last but not least, big thanks to my colleagues from the WIPO, namely Marina Foski and Humay Eminli, for their work in organizing and bringing together this webinar and bringing the discussion to life. As I wrap up, let me highlight that WIPO hosts a series of events to celebrate the World IP Day, recognizing the contributions of inventors and creators worldwide. To explore the full lineup of events organized by the World Intellectual Property Organization or by our partners, national IP offices, please visit the World IP Day event calendar on WIPO's website, and the link should have been inserted and shared into the chat. Here it is. So thanks again to all for being part of today's discussion, and I look forward to continuing these conversations in the future.